This happened a few weeks ago. I was working the night shift at the hospital. I had been a nurse for years, and I chose these shifts because I liked the quiet. I found it peaceful during the late hours. The hospital was small and run down, but it felt familiar and comfortable in its own way. Still, that week was different. On my first shift, I noticed a strange silence on the children's ward. There used to be laughter and chatter. Now, there was just one child left. I shrugged it off, convincing myself it was late, but something felt off in my stomach. Then, things got weirder. On my second night, a patient shouted about seeing a ghost at the foot of their bed. I laughed, thinking it was the meds talking. But later I found toys in the hallways. It made no sense. I glanced around the empty playroom, feeling watched. But I was alone. My heart raced. It felt wrong, but I chased it away, thinking maybe I was too tired. The feeling grew stronger as I tried to ignore it. I walked through the dark halls, repeating to myself that it was just my imagination. But I ended up back at the children's ward, standing in front of that child's room. The air felt thick. I looked at the empty beds, half expecting to see someone or something in the shadows. I told myself it was just a long night. One night I saw movement in the playroom. I stopped and looked inside. The room was empty, but something felt off. I shook my head and backed away. Maybe it was just my tired brain playing tricks. Still, the feeling of being watched followed me to the station. Then, during a still shift, I heard soft laughter echoing from the children's ward. I froze. There shouldn't have been anyone else there. Cautiously, I walked toward the sound. My heart pounded as I held my breath. I opened the door, hoping to find an explanation. But the room was empty. Suddenly a cold draft rushed past me. My heart dropped. The door slammed shut behind me. I leaned against it, gasping for air. I don't remember how long I stood there, but I never wanted to feel that again. I left the ward that night, and I vowed I wouldn't go back. But the memories still haunt me. Was it the children's ward that had something sinister hidden within its walls? Or was it just my mind slipping away? I can't shake off the feeling that something was wrong in that hospital. And every time I close my eyes, I hear the laughter again. The next night, I dreaded returning to work. A knot twisted in my stomach as I walked through the hospital doors. The air felt heavier than usual, thick with something I couldn't place. I took a deep breath and headed to the front desk. As I logged in, I caught sight of my colleague, Jenna. She looked tense. "Hey, did you hear about the little girl?" she asked, glancing over her shoulder like someone was listening. "They said she was talking to someone all night." A chill crept up my spine. "Talking to who?" I asked, trying to keep my tone steady. "No one knows, but it gave me the creeps." "Do you think things could have, I don't know, changed in the children's ward?" she asked, her eyes wide. I shrugged, but uneasiness gnawed at me. My mind went to the laughter I had heard. There was something in that ward. I felt the weight of it. After my shift began, I found myself drawn back to the children's ward, against my better judgment. The corridor felt colder, and shadows moved at the corners of my vision. My heart raced again. One child remained, a small girl named Lily, who had been in the hospital for weeks. I approached her room, praying she was asleep. Lily sat up in bed, her eyes shining like two dark stones. "Nurse," she whispered, her voice soft but urgent. "Can you hear them?" "Who, sweetie?" I asked, forcing a smile. "The kids. They're waiting for me." She grinned, but it didn't feel right. I felt a tremor in my hands. "What kids?" I managed to ask. "They're playing," she replied. "They want me to play too." I felt a swell of panic. "Lily, you need to focus on getting better. You're safe here." Suddenly, the room went cold. The laughter I had heard before echoed around me, clearer this time. I turned towards the door, but it slammed shut on its own. My pulse quickened. I felt trapped. "Lily, I started, but her gaze grew distant, as if she was looking at something beyond me. "They say you can come too," she said, her voice dripping with innocence. "You just have to play." I backed away, scanning for an escape. I couldn't breathe. "Lily, you need to listen to me." Her laughter joined the chorus around us. It was children's laughter, but it twisted and turned, growing darker with every second. The weight of unseen eyes pressed down on me. That's when I saw it, an outline forming in the corner of the room. A dark, shifting figure that seemed just as much shadow as it was substance. I could barely breathe, and all I wanted was to escape. Then, the figure pointed toward me. Suddenly, an unfamiliar force collided with me, and I stumbled, crashing to the floor. Everything went black. I came to slowly, the sterile smell of the hospital filling my nostrils. My body felt heavy, like I had been asleep for hours, maybe days. With a groan, I pushed myself up. The room was dim, save for the faint light spilling in from the hallway. I glanced around, my heart racing as I recalled the laughter, the shadows, and Lily's unsettling words. The door was ajar. My heart dropped. Had someone opened it while I was out? I glanced back at Lily's bed. She was still, her small chest rising and falling gently. Relief flooded over me, but it was short-lived. I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I took a shaky breath and moved toward the door. The corridor outside was empty, but I felt an odd pull toward the nurse's station. Something felt wrong. Each step echoed in the silence, and I glanced at the rooms I passed. The flickering lights cast strange shapes on the walls. I forced myself to focus, but my breathing quickened again. As I reached the station, I found Jenna seated at the desk. She looked up, her expression a mix of relief and fear. "You're awake. Thank goodness," she said, her voice slightly trembling. "You just collapsed. No one could wake you." "Yeah, I hesitated. My mind raced over what I had experienced. How could I explain it? "I think I saw something in Lily's room." Jenna's eyes widened, and she leaned closer. "You heard the laughter too, didn't you? Some of the other nurses have." She lowered her voice. "And now we're hearing it more often. Kids who aren't even here." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the children's ward. My stomach tightened. "What was that?" I gasped. "I don't know," Jenna whispered, her eyes darting toward the hallway. "But we should check. If something's wrong..." Before she could finish, the lights flickered again. I felt that same cold draft wash over me. "Stay close," I said, and we stepped into the corridor together. No one else was around. As we reached the door to Lily's room, I hesitated. The uneasy feeling returned like a weight in my chest. This was a bad idea. The door creaked open, and a voice shimmered over the air, almost like a song. "Play with us," it said. It was soft, sweet, and filled with enticement. I wanted to run, but my feet were rooted to the floor. I turned to Jenna. "Did you hear that?" She nodded, her eyes locked on the darkness inside. "What if they're calling for her? Lily's sick. She needs to rest, not play," I blurted, panic rising. We had to pull her away from whatever was happening in there. "Maybe we should try to talk to her," Jenna urged, stepping forward. I grabbed her arm, fear bubbling in my throat. "Jenna, no!" But it was too late. She had already stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind us. Darkness enveloped me again, but this time I wasn't ready to give in. I pounded on the door, shouting for Jenna. But the laughter returned, filling the space, wrapping around me like a shroud. Then, the figure emerged again, larger this time, its shadow coiling and twisting in the light. It lurked behind Jenna, the laughter echoing louder. I had to get her out. I had to face the figure. I took a deep breath and pushed the door open. What I saw next made my blood run cold. The figure loomed in the dim light, its form flickering like a candle flame. I could barely register Jenna's silhouette, standing defiant in front of it. "Jenna!" I shouted, stepping forward. My heart raced in my chest. "Get away!" But she didn't move. Her eyes were wide, fixed on that shadowy thing behind her. It seemed to stretch, reaching for her with long, ghostly fingers that curled and uncurled like smoke. What is that?" I stammered, panic coursing through me. "I think it's..." Jenna's voice trembled, cutting off mid-sentence. Her lips curved into a bizarre smile, a stark contrast to the fear etched on her face. "It's beautiful." "No, it's not beautiful." The words escaped my lips before I could stop myself. I needed to snap her out of whatever spell that thing had over her. I took a step toward them, the cold air wrapping around me. "Jenna, you need to come back." I raised my hand as if reaching for her, but even I could feel how weak my voice sounded. The figure turned its attention to me, the smile fading from Jenna's face. The laughter shifted to a low growl, an unsettling sound that rattled my bones. I took another step, determined to reach her. Then something unexpected happened. Jenna blinked, her head tilting as if she were breaking free from a trance. "What? Where am I?" She looked at me, confusion replacing the previous bliss. Before I could respond, the figure surged forward. It moved like liquid flowing between us. A chill rushed through the air, and I shuddered as it passed. Then it was gone, like a whisper carried away by the wind. "Did you see that?" I gasped, feeling the weight of dread settle over me again. Jenna gripped my arm, eyes wide. "What was that thing?" "I don't know, but it was trying to take you. We need to get out of here." I kept my voice low, glancing around, half expecting the figure to reappear. As we stepped out of the room, I couldn't shake the sense that we were being watched. The laughter faded, but the silence left a gnawing sense of dread. Just then, we heard a soft cry coming from the children's ward again. "No, not again." I shivered. "We can't go back there." But Jenna hesitated, her gaze drawn toward the sound. "What if it's one of the kids? We can't just leave them." I could see the determination in her eyes, and I felt torn. I didn't want to confront whatever was lurking in the dark, yet I knew we had to help. "Okay, but we stay together. No matter what, don't let go of my hand." As we made our way toward the children's ward, the feeling of unease wrapped around us tighter. The lights flickered above, casting erratic shadows against the walls, and it felt like the very air around us shifted. That's when I saw it. A figure standing at the end of the hallway, its face obscured. It seemed to be beckoning us forward, pulling us deeper into the heart of the hospital. My stomach churned. I gasped as the realization hit me. We weren't alone. A chill ran down my spine. We needed to figure out what was going on, but the deeper we went, the more dangerous it felt. Suddenly the figure vanished, as if it had never been there. "Did you see that?" Jenna whispered, her voice shaking. "Yes, and I wish I hadn't." We edged closer to the children's ward, the air heavy and damp. Each creak of the floorboards echoed in the silence, making me jump. I glanced at Jenna, and I could tell she felt it too, the oppressive weight of something unseen pressing down on us. "Maybe we should call for help," I suggested, though I knew it was a weak excuse. I was stalling. "No, they won't come," Jenna said sharply, her eyes darting around. "We can't just leave them." I didn't argue. If her mind was set, it was better to stick together than to lose each other in the chaos of our fears. As we approached the door, a soft thumping sound came from inside, a rhythm, almost like a lullaby, haunting and dissonant. Jenna's face went pale, and I felt my heart lurch. "What if it's them?" I asked, although I feared the answer. Jenna nodded, her grip tightening on my hand. "But what if it's not?" Just as I opened my mouth to respond, the door creaked wide open. A gust of cold wind blew past us, carrying an unsettling smell. Something sweet and rotten, like old candy forgotten in a sunlit room. We stood frozen, staring into the room that was supposed to be empty. Inside, dim shapes moved. Shadows that shouldn't have been there danced in the corners of my vision. I took a cautious step inside, adrenaline rushing through me. My instinct screamed at me to turn and run, but I couldn't leave Jenna alone. "Look," she gasped. I turned. To my left, a child sat on the bed, clutching a ragged toy. Her eyes were wide, reflecting fear and something else. Hunger. Behind her, other shapes were emerging. Taller figures that looked like children but were warped and twisted. They crawled toward us, their mouths opening and closing as if they were whispering something. But no sound reached me. "Jenna, back up," I said, my voice strained. But Jenna stepped forward, mesmerized. "What do they need?" she called out, her voice echoing in the hollow air. Without thinking, I lunged for her. But just as I reached out, the figures surged forward. A chorus of whispers filled the air, a cacophony of shivers that wrapped around us like chains. "Help us! Help us!" they begged, their voices blending into a single lament. Then I saw it, the figure from earlier, its hollow eyes fixed on Jenna, drawing her in. Panic flooded through me. "Jenna, come back! It's a trap!" Suddenly, the child with the toy broke free from the other figures and reached for Jenna's wrist, small fingers gripping tightly. In that moment, I felt a surge of dread wash over me. I had to act. I pulled my arm back and shouted, "No!" My voice cut through the whispers, and the child flinched, her grip loosening. Jenna hesitated, confusion etching across her features. But before I could grab her, the shadows shifted, dark limbs reaching for me. Jenna was still in that trance, unaware of the danger. Just then, everything went dark. The lights flickered and died. A void surrounded us, and the whispers turned into a roar. I could feel the cold breath of the figures inching closer. I had to get us out before it was too late. "Jenna!" I yelled again, desperation clawing at my throat. "We have to go now." Someone, or something, was blocking our way, and it wasn't just the shadows. I blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden darkness. The whispers had turned into a deafening cacophony, drowning out my thoughts. I reached for Jenna, my fingers grazing her shoulder, hoping to pull her back and make her snap out of it. "Jenna!" I shouted, my voice lost amidst the swirling chaos. But her body remained rigid, fixated on the doorway. Then, a flash of light illuminated the room briefly. The shadows morphed, revealing twisted faces that seemed to merge with the darkness. I stumbled backward, heart pounding as the chill of dread wrapped around me. "Please," I begged, knowing it was futile. "We need to leave." Just as my existence felt crushed by the weight of looming despair, a silhouette emerged from the shadows. It stood taller than the others, confident, almost regal in the gloom. Its face was obscured, but I could sense its hollow stare boring into me. A shiver ran down my spine. Suddenly, Jenna gasped. "Who are they?" I felt a fragment of her awareness return, but panic still gripped her. "They want us," I said, urgency spilling from my lips. "We have to run." I grabbed her arm and pulled, but she resisted. "No, wait. What if they really need help?" I shook her, anger and fear colliding within me. "They're not children anymore, Jenna. They're something else." The moment hung heavily between us, electrified with tension. As if to confirm my words, the light flickered again. This time, the silhouettes laughed, a chorus of dissonant giggles that sent my heart racing. The grotesque figures advanced, their fingers stretched toward us like vines seeking to snare prey. With adrenaline surging, I forcibly yanked Jenna away from the soul child and pulled her toward the door. "Come on, now!" Just as we reached the threshold, the light dimmed again, and her gaze wandered back. "No!" I yelled, grasping her head to redirect her focus. "You're not thinking straight!" But then I saw it, a shadowy figure moving in the corner of my eye. Something was approaching behind us, growing larger as it shuffled closer. A glint caught my attention, and I felt the air grow thicker, heavier. I turned back just in time to see the figure fully emerge from the darkness. A head that was too large, arms that dangled unnaturally low. The mouth stretched wide in an unsettling grin, revealing rows of jagged teeth glistening with a sinister sheen. "Jenna!" I screamed again, pushing her out the door and plunging into the hall. I turned around, prepared to brace for a chase, but the shadows had receded, vanishing as quickly as they had come. Breathless, we stumbled into the corridor. The air was still charged with the remnants of fear, thick like syrup. I glanced back, expecting to see the twisted forms lurching after us, but the hallway was empty. The only sound was our heavy breathing. What was that?" Jenna stammered, her eyes darting back to the door. "I don't know," I admitted, panic creeping into my voice. "But we can't stick around to figure it out." As we hurried down the dimly lit corridor, I felt something cold brush against my neck. I halted mid-step and looked back, half expecting to see one of the figures lurking behind. But it was just a draft, or so I convinced myself, until the lights flickered once more. This time, an unmistakable voice echoed through the darkness. "Help us." I froze, the words chilling me to the bone. I exchanged a worried glance with Jenna. The darkness was not finished with us yet. I didn't move. My breath caught in my throat. The voice was distant, yet piercing. It felt familiar and wrong at the same time. I wanted to scream but didn't trust my own voice to carry any more than the echoes of the past. "Did you hear that?" Jenna whispered, looking over her shoulder anxiously. I nodded, too scared to speak. We both knew what that voice meant. It was calling to us. "Let's keep moving," I finally managed. Jenna nodded and we pressed on, each step heavier than the last. The corridor stretched before us, lined with doors that looked more like tombs than hospital rooms. I could feel the eyes of the darkness pressing in from all sides, weighing down on me. With every flicker of the lights, doubt surged through me. What if we weren't alone? What if they were waiting? Just as we turned a corner, a door creaked open down the hall. My heart raced as I instinctively reached for Jenna's hand. Before I could say a word, a figure stepped out. A nurse, maybe. I didn't want to assume. But then, I got a good look at her face. Her eyes were glassy, and her skin had a pallor that sent chills through me. She looked almost ethereal, like she was more shadow than substance. A shiver ran through me. "Are you lost?" she asked in a voice that dripped with syrupy sweetness, yet held an edge that made me wary. No," I replied, glancing at Jenna, who was clearly just as rattled. "We're fine. Just going to the other side." "Aren't you supposed to help?" she pressed, taking a half-step forward. "They need you." I took a step back instead, tightening my grip on Jenna's hand. Who needs help?" "The lost." Her lips curled into an unsettling smile. "Come, I'll show you." "No," I snapped, panic tightening in my chest. "We need to go." Before I could finish my sentence, the lights flickered again, plunging the hallway into darkness for a brief moment. When they returned, the nurse was gone, and I could hear faint cries echoing from behind the closed doors. "Did that really just happen?" Jenna breathed, her face pale against the flickering light. "I think so," I replied, my heart pounding. "But we can't stay here." We stepped cautiously down the corridor, our senses heightened. The whispers grew louder, a blend of voices overlapping, pulling at my mind. They were begging, pleading. I couldn't decipher the words, but the tone sent waves of dread rolling through me. "Is it just me, or is it getting colder?" Jenna shivered, her breath visible in the frigid air. "It is cold," I agreed, realizing how quickly the warmth of the hallway had dissipated. I wanted to find a window or a door that led outside, something solid and real, away from whatever was lurking here. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw it. A fleeting shadow darting behind a glass panel. A face emerged for a single instant, drawn and hollow, eyes filled with desperation. "Look!" I pointed, my voice trembling. But when Jenna turned, it was gone. "Maybe we should just—" she started. But before she could finish, my gaze caught on the sheet of paper fluttering against the wall. It was a crumpled note, half concealed in the shadows. I stepped closer, grasping it. Jenna's voice trailed off. The words were cryptic, a list of names followed by the word "help," scribbled frantically at the bottom. "Wait, these names," I murmured, familiarity sparking in my mind. I didn't recognize them all, but I knew at least one, the name of a patient who had gone missing weeks ago. "Do you think—" Jenna's words hung in the air. I turned to face her, the realization crashing over us both. Whatever this place is, it's holding on to something. Just as that thought settled, the lights flickered one last time before going out completely. In the heavy silence, a chilling laugh echoed through the darkness, and I knew we were far from safe. "Run!" I yelled, already sprinting back the way we came, pulling Jenna with me into the unknown. We darted down the corridor, the sound of our footsteps echoing against the tile floor. The darkness felt alive, swallowing all the light and sound. I could still hear that laugh rattling in my mind, a sharp reminder that we weren't alone in this nightmare. "Which way?" Jenna gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. I scanned the hallway, frantically searching for something that felt safe, something untainted by whatever was lurking here. "Let's try the stairs," I shouted, pointing to a door at the end of the hall. Desperate for an exit, I pushed through the door and led Jenna down the staircase. It was narrow and dim, the air carrying a damp, musty scent. My heart raced as I realized we were descending deeper into the building. "Do you hear that?" Jenna whispered. I stopped, trying to tune out the pounding of my own heart. For a moment, I caught a sound, a low, rhythmic thudding that seemed to echo off the walls. It felt like a heartbeat, steady and ominous. "Let's keep going," I urged, unable to shake off the feeling of being drawn deeper into a trap. As we reached the next floor, I pushed the door open cautiously, bracing myself. The hallway was eerily quiet, yet the whispers lingered, wrapping around us like a fog. I stepped into the corridor, glancing around. The faint yellow glow from a wall-mounted light flickered uncertainly, creating shadows that danced along the walls. "Do you think we should look for a way out?" Jenna asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Before I could answer, a loud crash rang out behind us. Instinct took over, and I spun around just in time to see a heavy metal door slam shut. I was sure we hadn't closed it. A chill shot through my spine, a new fear clawing at me. No, we have to go," I said, pushing Jenna in front of me. We hurried down the hall, my eyes scanning every corner, every door, as if expecting something to jump out. Then I saw it again, a fleeting shadow darting past a door. I stopped abruptly, pulling Jenna close. My throat tightened. "Did you see that?" "What? What's wrong?" she replied, looking bewildered. "That shadow," I stammered. "Something's watching us. Are you sure you're not just imagining it?" She squeezed my hand tighter. But before I could respond, I caught sight of something on the ground. A small rusted key lay half hidden under a pile of debris. "Jenna, look!" I knelt and picked it up, feeling its weight in my palm. "Maybe this will open something." "We shouldn't be here," Jenna said, her eyes darting around anxiously. "What if they find us? We need to find a way out. This could be it," I insisted, tucking the key into my pocket. Just at that moment, another disembodied laugh echoed through the air, closer this time. My stomach dropped. The lights flickered again, and I felt the temperature drop further still, sending chills racing over my skin. "Let's move!" I grabbed Jenna's arm and rushed to the nearest door, the rusty doorknob feeling cold beneath my fingertips. I hesitated. Should I even turn it? With the sound of footsteps resonating in the distance, my instincts kicked in. I turned the knob and pushed the door open, revealing a dark room that felt somehow worse than the hall. But there was no time to consider. We stepped inside, hoping to find refuge. Before I could close the door, I caught a glimpse of something monstrous out of the corner of my eye. A figure loomed in the darkness, waiting. And then the door slammed shut behind us. I flinched as the door slammed shut, the resounding echo reverberating in my ears. My heart raced, and I quickly turned around to face Jenna, who looked just as bewildered. "What was that?" she asked, voice trembling. I peered into the shadows, trying to catch a glimpse of the figure I had seen. It was just an outline at first, but as my eyes adjusted, I could see more. A tall, hunched shape, almost human but devoid of features that made it recognizable. "We need to get out of here," I whispered urgently. I stepped further into the room, barely breathing. The air was thick, filled with the metallic scent of rust and something rotten. There was no exit visible, just old hospital furniture strewn about, coated in dust. "Look over there!" Jenna pointed to the far corner, and I turned just in time to see another shadow dart past an old examination table. I stepped back instinctively, bumping into something cold. My heart dropped. It was a gurney, its wheels squeaking lightly, an unsettling reminder of what this place once was. "Maybe there's a window," I suggested, moving cautiously toward the far side of the room. Jenna nodded, keeping close behind me. I could still hear the whispers, like a forgotten conversation floating in the air, drawing me towards the back. As we reached the far wall, the whispers grew louder. "We're not alone," Jenna murmured. My stomach twisted in knots as I pulled back a dusty curtain, revealing a window, completely sealed, rusted shut. Panic surged through me. "Come on, we'll find another way out," I said, trying to sound calm. But the shiver running down my spine betrayed my facade. Just then, the lights flickered and plunged us into darkness. I felt Jenna's hand shoot out beside me, grabbing my arm tight. "This isn't funny! Stop messing around!" she shouted, her angry tones slicing through the silence. It's not me! Something is happening, Jenna, I said, my voice rising in panic. I reached for my phone, desperate for its light. When I turned it on, the beam sliced through the darkness like a knife. I illuminated the room, my eyes darting everywhere for the hidden figure. But we were alone, or so I thought. That's when I saw it again, lurking just outside the reach of my phone's light. It was low to the ground, creeping slowly toward us, its form shifting as it moved. Jenna! I gasped, backing away. Look! She turned and gasped, her breath hitching in her throat. The thing slithered, no, crawled toward us, its body an unnatural amalgamation of arms and legs, like something that had never walked but was trying to imitate one. Its laugh echoed again, a cruel, mocking sound. Run! I yelled, urging Jenna forward. We darted back toward the door we had entered, but it wouldn't budge. I pulled with all my strength, but it stayed locked tight. Help! I screamed, desperation clawing at my throat. The laughter grew louder, vibrating through the walls, closing in on us. What do we do? What do we do? Suddenly, a burst of adrenaline coursed through me as the figure drew closer, its edges sharpening in my phone's light. I noticed something gleaming on the wall beside the door. A small keyhole, barely visible in the shadow. That key, I shouted. The one we found, but I had no time to think. Jenna stepped forward, covering her mouth in fear. The creature lunged and I flung myself against the door, slamming my palm against the cold surface, trying to will it open. Then everything went dark. I gasped back to consciousness, the sterile smell of antiseptic filling my lungs. Blinking against the dim hallway light, I pushed myself up, panic gnawing at my insides. I was lying on the floor near the nurse's station, Jenna a few feet away, unconscious. My heart raced as I scanned my surroundings. The laughter, the chilling whispers, it all felt like a bad dream. Yet here I was, still in the hospital. Jenna! I called, shaking her lightly. Relief rushed over me when I saw her eyelids flicker and finally open, confusion clouding her expression. Where? What happened? She stuttered, trying to sit up. The creature! We were! I struggled to find words amid the chaos swirling in my thoughts. I needed a plan. We've got to get out of here. As we regained our senses, the laughter drifted back into my ears, a haunting lull that sent chills down my spine. The corridor felt heavier than before, the shadows deeper, as if the darkness itself was alive and intent on keeping us here. I pulled Jenna to her feet, and we stumbled out of the nurse's station, my heart pounding in rhythm with our hurried footsteps. Do we go back the way we came? Jenna suggested, her voice shaky. No! We need to find another exit, I said, swallowing my fear. The station was quiet now, but those whispers still curled around us, urging us toward the children's ward. I hesitated, urging the memory of that twisted figure to the back of my mind. Whatever was lurking there, it wouldn't let us leave easily. Over here, I said, leading her down a different corridor, one I'd passed many times before. The walls seemed to close in as I glanced toward each door, half expecting it to burst open at any moment. I think this leads to the loading dock. It felt like an eternity as we traversed the winding hallways, navigating shadows as they danced along the walls. The whispering amplified, echoing our footsteps, a mockery of our plight. I tightened my grip on Jenna's hand, determined to stay together. There it is! I shouted, spotting the door that would connect us to the outside world. The loading dock door was ahead, sturdy and promising. But there was still a looming weight in the air. I felt it pulse. Anticipation and dread swirled within me. As we reached the door, I pushed against the handle, but it wouldn't budge. Locked! Panic surged, frustration coiling in my chest. My mind raced. What did we miss? Did we overlook something? Wait! Jenna pointed to a keypad beside the door. Do you think it needs a code? Shouldn't it be just open? I felt frustration bubble within me. Maybe it's an access code, she said, her eyes blazing with determination. What if we try something? I tapped the keypad, not knowing what else to do. Like what? Just try something. Dates, names, anything you can think of, she urged. As I punched in numbers, I felt weightless, alone in a void of frantic desperation. Numbers blurred, my hands trembled. I tried my birthday, then the hospital's opening date. Nothing worked. Then I had a thought. The notes. The missing patient's name. I pressed in the digits I remembered. One last chance. By some stroke of luck, or perhaps fate, the lock clicked, and the door cracked open. I stood stunned before the opening, the cool night air wafting through. "Let's go!" Jenna yanked me forward, determination shining in her eyes. We stepped into the courtyard. The vast sky above felt liberating. Breaths of fresh air welcomed us as we turned back, momentarily glancing at the hospital. But shadows still flickered against the building, those whispers lingering at the edge of our minds. I knew the danger hadn't truly left. As we ran, my heartbeat slowed, but only just. I could still hear the laughter, faint but insistent, echoing through the walls of the place we had just escaped. "Do you think it's over?" Jenna whispered, her brow furrowed in apprehension. I don't know," I replied, watching over my shoulder. "But let's just keep moving. For now, we made it out." As we made our way toward the parking lot, I couldn't shake the feeling of something unexplainable lurking just behind us. Had we escaped? Or had the very essence of that horror simply followed us into the world? The questions, much like the laughter, faded into the distance, unresolved and unanswered. I moved to a different city after that. Sometimes I wonder if those children, or whatever those voices were, still linger in that old hospital. But mostly, I try not to think about it.